Good evening, and thank you for joining us for this county-wide webinar for the total solar eclipse. A few quick housekeeping notes. We are recording this webinar and we'll post it later. Also, if you need the closed caption option, please click More at the top of the screen, then Language and Speech, and then you will see where you can choose the closed caption. All attendees will have their cameras and microphones turned off for the duration of the webinar, but please feel free to type any questions into the chat box. We will answer all of those at the end of this presentation. Now, to begin, my name is Sarah Buckner, and I am the Assistant Director of Community Engagement for Hamilton County Tourism. I'm joined tonight by a panel of experts from all over Hamilton County who have been planning for this celestial event for over a year. Some of us have been hearing about the eclipse this whole time, but for some of us, this is the first time we have learned anything. So what we plan to do is start at the beginning tonight. What is a total solar eclipse? Where can I see it? Why is it such a big deal? We've got ideas on some of the best places to watch this big event, as well as some warnings for residents, as we expect hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world to descend on Indiana and Hamilton County. We will give you thoughts on how to best prepare for the inevitable influx of people, from traffic congestion to the very real possibility that cell service could be slow or disrupted. We'll touch a bit on safety and how to secure those ever elusive eclipse glasses. And of course, did it ever even happen if you don't have a t-shirt or an ornament to commemorate it with? So we'll have details on how you can get Hamilton County specific eclipse merchandise. Let me start by introducing our panelists. Shane Booker is the Executive Director of Hamilton County's Emergency Management Team. We lovingly refer to him as the Master of Disaster because his job is to always plan for the worst. Shane has had over 20 years of public safety service. His team is responsible for planning for disasters and supporting first responders in the field. Jim Ginder is the Health Education Specialist for the Hamilton County Health Department, where he has worked for 27 years. Jim has logged hundreds of thousands of hours teaching health topics to everyone from preschool students to senior citizens. Jim is a registered EMT, an EMS educator, a certified psychological autopsy investigator, and a community health worker. Emily Laddie is a community engagement and communications manager for the Hamilton County Parks and Recreation Department. Parks and Rec has been working around the clock to organize two big eclipse-related events in Hamilton County, one at Strawton-Katewi Park and the other at Cool Creek Park. Emily will have more details on those events in just a bit. Finally, Keith Turner of Carmel High School's Planetarium. We will start with him tonight. Keith, if you have joined us, a lot of people mistakenly assume this eclipse will be like the one we witnessed in 2017, but nothing could be further from the truth. Can you please enlighten us? Shane, has Keith joined us?
He has not yet.
Okay. Well, if Keith has not,
Go ahead, Sarah.
Oh no, Shane, do you feel equipped to talk about what a total solar eclipse is?
Honestly, not really. I have heard his presentation a few times, but I don't feel that I
That's okay.
I'll have to defer to you if that's okay.
No, that's totally okay. So this is not a science teacher. He actually just said he didn't have the link, and that is why he has not joined us. So I'm going to text him the link, and then I'm going to just kind of scramble and tell you all what that looks like. So here we go. I'm going to forward this to him right now.
Sarah, while you're doing that, one of the things, this is Shane Booker with Hamilton County Emergency Management, and one of the things that you may or may not recall is that during the 2017 solar eclipse that we had that occurred in Indiana, it was only a partial eclipse. And so one of the big differences for us is that we're now in what we call the path of totality. So we are in that path of complete darkness. And one of the things that we've learned is I see a lot of maps with a line, and I'm sure that we'll show one of those. But one of the things that for us that we've seen is that line represents kind of the center point, and then you have the kind of two other lines that intersect on the outside. But that path, it doesn't matter where you're at, either, on that line or as long as you're within the two outside lines, you will see the total solar eclipse. And so that's one of the key things to understand, is that we are in that path of totality. The closer you are to the center line means the longer the time of darkness. Sarah, were you able to
I texted him
hear
the link.
from?
He's way cooler to
Great.
listen to speak, but that's okay. I'll just present for him as much as I can. So a solar eclipse occurs when the moon is between the earth and the sun. So it will pass in front of the sun for a short period of time, starting at 3:06 p.m. And it can either do it totally or partially. In 2017, some of you may remember that we had that experience here. We had a partial solar eclipse. I remember going outside with my glasses, and it wasn't very exciting. I mean, I was like, okay, cool, we're going to have one of these. But what it means when we have a total solar eclipse and the moon is completely in front of the sun, there's going to be a shadow over us, and it will be complete darkness. It will be as if it is night in the middle of the day. So if you want to go to the next slide. Like I just said, this is a partial, or this is a total solar eclipse, not a partial. We experienced that in 2017. It will, like I said, be completely dark. We're going to go over some of the things that you can experience during that time. So again, this is way cooler when it's Keith talking about it, but we will have a change in temperature when the sun is down. It's going to be a little bit cooler. You're going to see Bailey's beads, which you see on the screen right now. It kind of looks like a diamond effect on top of the shadow. Our animals are going to be confused about what time of day it is, and they are going to look around and maybe even go to sleep for the night, or for the 3 minutes. When you look down on the ground, you're going to see crescent shadows. That's a really cool thing to see. The planets will be visible just like night. And the part that I'm most excited about is the 360-degree sunset. So no matter where you're standing, it will look like sunset all around you. This is the path of totality that we will experience. Shane kind of spoke on it a little bit. The blue line is the center point. We are within the two orange lines, which means that it will be complete darkness. The rest of Indiana will experience a partial eclipse that's outside of that line. This is just some more information on what it will look like. The purple color shows that Johnson County is pretty much the center point for the eclipse in Indiana. All of Hamilton County is affected. It has been 820 years almost since Hamilton County had a total solar eclipse in their backyard. We won't have another eclipse until 2153, but in the contiguous United States, there will be one in 2044, and that's in North and South Dakota. So we won't have one here for quite a while. Okay, so this is the eclipse timeline. This is what you can expect on April 8th, which again is a Monday. At 1:50, you're going to notice that the sky is going to start to change. It will be a little bit darker, start to look like dusk. You'll start to see the sunset. At 3:06 p.m., the full eclipse will begin. Depending on where you are in Hamilton County, because each community is a little bit different, a couple of seconds off, the eclipse will last anywhere from 2 minutes and 55 seconds to over almost 3 minutes and 40 seconds. But it will end completely by 3:10, and the partial eclipse ends at 4:23. So it'll be an exciting few hours in there. This is the duration of the eclipse. So depending on where you are in Hamilton County, this is what you will expect during that time. Fishers is the closest to the center line. They'll have the longest duration of 3 minutes and 38 seconds. And I actually heard from an eclipse expert that it's 3 minutes and 39 seconds now, which matters apparently. So just take a screenshot of this if you want to know how long you can expect totality in your community. Okay, the next part is where I am definitely the expert. I get to talk about the fun things that you do in Hamilton County. So here we go. This once-in-a-lifetime event is meant to be enjoyed and celebrated with your friends, family, classmates, and neighbors. All schools have either delayed spring break a day, taken that Monday off or they're on e-learning just for this experience. So residents will have time and the opportunity to get out and explore and enjoy this. Hamilton County will be home to several dozens of Eclipse events of all scale and size. So whether you are looking to enjoy the special Eclipse beer that Sun King has to offer, or spend time in a more secluded spot like Stuckey Farm or Woolly Yak Winery, or if you want to gather with a larger crowd at a tailgate event at Ruoff, or travel back to the past at Conner Prairie, there are events for everyone and every price point. Our landing page is visit hamiltoncounty.com/Eclipse and has all of these offerings available to you. There are dozens of them, like I said, of all kinds, and it's really exciting. Also, just to note, in addition to these events, Hamilton County Tourism will place murals around the county of the artwork that you'll see on these slides, and that is to celebrate and kind of take photos in front of and really enjoy. They're just temporary, but they're to bring our communities together. And we'll also do some fun things that you may see when you're out and about at our hospitality businesses. So you'll see some window clings, table tents, coasters, other fun little things. So then our next slide here talks about what to expect with travelers. I continue to hear from partners around Indiana that this slide shows a very conservative number, but it is the data that I feel most comfortable sharing on what to expect. This comes from the greatamericaneclipse.org website, where they gather details from previous events like this, the quickest and simplest drive times from around the contiguous United States to the line of totality, and tell you who should expect to receive the most visitors. This data shows that Indiana could receive up to 600,000 visitors, which is the second most visited state in the entire path of totality. To give you an idea of what that can mean, we receive around 600,000 visitors in a busy month. And all of that will be one day or spread over the weekend. The visitors for an eclipse or the eclipse chasers that travel tend to be science or space enthusiasts or families that want to immerse themselves in the community. They are very fun, excited people ready to learn and enjoy. A few fun things we have learned about eclipse chasers is that their drink of choice is champagne. A location with more than 3 minutes of totality is a long time and worth going to, which we have. They love to buy fun souvenirs and merchandise to commemorate their trip. So after they leave their viewing location, there may be traffic. We have public safety on it. Shane will discuss. So this isn't unmanageable, but it's always nice to just keep that in mind. For our next slide. This data here that you'll see is based off of our 5,000 hotel nights. We expect this number to grow as we get closer to the date, but we are also a short drive time away from a lot of states and communities. So we may see people not make a plan until we get closer to the event, or they may just come in and then leave. But what you will see here is that Sunday night is our busiest night. It is when we expect the most people to be in town. I also think this is really interesting. It's our vacation, like our VBROs or Airbnbs. It's interesting to see the growth of 2023 at this time. We had 245 of those, and now we have 310. And we have booked for that time or available for that time. And we have 213 of those booked as of now, just to give you an idea of how many people could be here. We only get the VBRO and Airbnb data once a month, so we haven't received it yet for March, but we also expect that number to rise. We are checking hotel occupancy weekly, so that this number could climb, and we're working with public safety to make sure they stay informed. So with all of those people coming to Hamilton County, there will be some important things for our residents to keep in mind. Shane Booker with Emergency Management has done a lot of research on this topic and talked to a lot of communities who have fallen in the path of totality before. Shane, what are your biggest takeaways?
Well, thank you. I need to go back to the PowerPoint. Let me back up real quick. We do expect that there will be some traffic issues when we have that many people coming into our county and to view the eclipse. We do anticipate, especially afterwards, that there could be some traffic issues. And then we're also we've talked with Verizon and AT&T due to the sheer number of people that are interested in streaming their experience. that could put some strain on the cell systems. And we'll talk about some options that are available to you there. And then we'll also talk about some, that could also lead to some increased emergency response times. So it's always really important to ensure that you're prepared at home in the event that, it may take a little bit longer for public safety to get there. One of the big things that we're looking at is those people that potentially are coming into our community, and those could be family members that you have that are coming to view the eclipse. So it's always really important to try and leave early. Pack plenty of snacks, make sure that you've got charging cables and those sorts of things, and fill your gas. And then also you want to check the traffic. Even things like Waze, if you're familiar with that app, it's a great resource, but one of the challenges, especially after the eclipse, is all of those people that are trying to leave to go home. And we've seen from 2017, and it's been consistent with those different communities that we've talked with all across the country, Kansas, Idaho, Washington State, Oregon, that many of them, really dealt with some serious traffic issues where a normal 2-hour drive to try and get home turned into, anywhere from 6 to 10 hours. And that's, I think, one of the key things, especially if you have family that are coming here to view the eclipse with you, is if they can stay an extra night, that would really, help out. And it would also make probably life a lot easier for them. So hopefully that is something that people will consider in making sure that they could potentially leave on Tuesday to help try and alleviate some of the traffic congestion. One of the other things that we, in April in Indiana, it doesn't really have to be April as we've experienced here recently with our weather, but it really doesn't matter. We could see everything from rain to a tornado to snow. So it's really important to stay weather aware. We're really hoping that it will be sunny and 72 that day. Last April 8th was really nice, so fingers crossed that will be the same case. But what's really important is to make sure that you have multiple ways to receive information. And one of the things that you can do is you can download the HCEM app. You can just Google HCEM, search for that in the Google Play Store or the App Store. And if you Google, it's Hamilton County Emergency Management, so HCEM. And then if you Google that, you'll be able to download it. But one of the other things that we highly recommend is that if especially you're going to be home for the eclipse, is to buy a weather radio. Right now, this is Severe Weather Preparedness Week. Tomorrow at 10:15 a.m., the National Weather Service will issue a test tornado warning, and it is a statewide tornado drill. One of the really neat things about those weather radios, they're not dependent upon the internet. They don't need a cell, signal to work. They work through kind of old-fashioned radio, if you will. And then the neat thing about that is that emergency management has the ability to push out emergency messaging beyond severe weather. So it's really a great resource to be able to have that as a potential backup. And as we saw with the recent communications outage with cell phones, had that gone on longer, we would have had the ability to at least press or send out messages via the weather radio on how other means that you could communicate and get especially, emergency medical or fire services if those were needed. During the eclipse, one of the concerns that we have is some of the things that we've seen in other communities is that people start to, take notice that there's something changing and they may not be aware that the eclipse is happening. And we've seen even places like Idaho, I spoke with an emergency management there, and people started pulling off into the shoulder on the interstate. They pulled off then into the emergency lane on the left-hand side, and eventually both travel lanes on the interstate were closed because of the number of people that had just come to a stop to view the eclipse. So that's really important to be able to keep an eye out for that. People may not be paying attention to where they're at and they're trying to get a better view. And that's something to really keep in mind, is that we may have people thinking that they're well out of the travel lane when they're actually trying to walk maybe to get a view around a tree or something of that nature. So it's really important just to keep an eye out for people and anything else. And then you also don't want to, obviously wear your glasses while you're trying to drive. One of the things that came up today is about safety, and Jim's going to talk about that. But there's no difference in looking at the sun, today if you were to look up at the sun versus what will happen on April 8th. It's just looking at the sun is not safe. And so Jim will talk more about some of those pieces. Having alternate communications is really important. And if you have a landline phone, that's great. Or you have a voice over IP through, your cable provider or something, that's another great option where you have kind of that direct connection. If you're going to be out someplace with your family, you may want to consider, buying some of the family radio service walkie-talkies. And those are widely available where you can stay connected with your family members. And then amateur radio is also a key component for us. We provide quarterly training for that, or quarterly testing opportunities, but unfortunately there's not one before the eclipse, it's well after. But that's also a great way to receive information. So if maybe you have an old scanner or a family member that has one, you can look up on our website at hamiltoncounty.in.gov/EM for emergency management, and you can find radio frequencies where you can actually listen to those trained amateur radio volunteers that work with us to be able to relay information. And that's not only a great resource for during the eclipse, but it's also a great opportunity to kind of hear what's going on, especially as severe weather threatens our community. One of the other pieces of that is, we always talk about, being the master of disaster. We have to kind of think worst case scenario. FM radio doesn't travel as far. So one of the things that used to be said much more often years ago was that in the event that there is some kind of an emergency and you don't get an FM station, try to find an AM station because that carries so much further. I talked a little bit about the weather radios. One of the things that we recommend is buying a Midland brand radio. And the reason for that is they are one of the few that are public alert certified, which means that it is a life-saving device and it has the same standards that basically something like a fire detector or smoke detector has to go through. So we partner with them based on that public alert safety certification that they have to be able to make sure that we can utilize that. And then once again, you can download our app for free. Not only do we send out information through that, as long as you have a connection to the internet, you can get to a weather radio live stream that we provide, and it also allows you to send in reports to us. So not only a resource for the eclipse, but also a great resource just to have in the event that there's an emergency or any kind of disaster that you may encounter, or even just being able to report big tree limbs that may be down. Those are things that are really important to us here in the Emergency Operations Center anytime we have a threat for severe weather. One of the big things for us is making sure that we can reach you. We have a lot of great resources here, and one of those is the ability to send out emergency alerts or informative alerts. And we're asking the public to text the word eclipse to the number there on your screen, and that will allow us to be able to send out alerts to you. One of the big things that's really going to be important when we talk about communication is making sure that if you have to, that you have the ability to text. And that really takes up a lot less space on those towers. If you think of it as a garden hose, if you're going to have a conversation with somebody, water has to be flowing through that. But if you're going to send a text, instead of having that stream of water going through like you would for the phone conversation, it's really just kind of dropping a marble and letting it run through there. So a lot of more individual marbles can get through that tube than just the one conversation. And so being able to text or to receive text messaging is a lot more efficient and doesn't put as much strain on the network overall. One of the big things that we encounter every day is on the other side of the wall from me is the 911 dispatch center. And they take a lot of calls every day that are really not emergent calls that are coming into 911. So you should only call 911 if you are in immediate danger or if you have a serious medical need. If you're in an accident with injuries, notice that it doesn't say if you're in a car accident with no injuries, you shouldn't call 911, and we'll talk about what number you can call. And then if there's any kind of physical or verbal disturbance, then those are 4 times when you really should call 911. Some of the things that you may that you shouldn't call 911 for, and you can see the non-emergency number. And I highly recommend that you add this to the contacts in your phone. It's really important that people have this phone number so that you can contact the same 911 dispatcher, but not take up that 911 line. This allows you to have an administrative kind of call, and they can provide you with the same level of service while not taking up the opportunity for someone who may need life medical safety has the ability to get in. So things like if you have a VIN check, which is basically your vehicle identification number, if you have that form, maybe you bought a boat or you bought a car and you need to have that checked by a police officer, you can call the non-emergency number. If you've lost or found animals, same thing. If you can call that non-emergency number, that's going to be extremely helpful. Car accident with only minor damage, noise complaints, any other type of complaint that you may have, a fireworks complaint. Again, it really gets back to if there's not a really serious threat to life or safety, then it's really important to call this phone number and not 911. If you are calling 911, it's really important to know where you are. If you have an iPhone, one of the things you can do is say, "Hey Siri, where am I?" And Siri a lot of times will tell you the exact address of where you're at. You also, one of the things that after a 911 discussion, where one of the dispatchers shared an instance where there was a child choking and the person didn't know the location of where they were at. It made me think about it, and I went to my mom, and she babysits my nephews. And I asked her, I said, "Do you know where they live?" And she said, "Of course, I drive there all the time." I said, "Yes, but if you had to call 911, do you know the address?" And it's like, "Well, no, not really. I don't know the address." So, putting your address on the refrigerator so that loved ones who come and maybe babysit your kids, or just having that information available, is really important. There's so many times that we go places that we don't think of the address, but it's really critical to know that, to make sure that 911 can get this help to you fast. One of the misnomers is that 911 exactly knows your location based upon your cell phone. And as you can see there in that picture, that top screen is quite large. And one of the reasons for that is that circle that comes in for a 911 call could be really large, and it could encompass a lot of different homes. And it's really important to be able to know that location to share it with folks. Also, being able to get to a safe place is really important if you have an emergency. Sarah, just wanted to let you know your camera popped back on. So just in case you didn't know that. And then also answer call takers' questions. It can be frustrating a little bit at times to go through all of the process of asking a lot of questions. But what that does is it helps them go through the decision tree, and it helps them understand what type of resources need to be sent. And that's also a quality assurance component, and it is a safety component for you. And that's why it's really important to just have a little patience and to go through all of those questions. Also, you need to try and stay calm, and that can be really difficult depending upon the situation. But you being able to just take a breath for a second and try and stay calm and get the dispatcher or the call taker the information that they need is going to be able to make sure that you can get the help that you need much quicker. One of the other pieces that I'm not sure that we may have skipped over is the ability to text to 911. The state of Indiana was the first one to offer texting to 911, and that's really a great resource. And what that allows you to do is, in the event that you're in an emergency situation where maybe it's not safe, you can text to 911. One of the other components of that is like during the eclipse. If there is a extremely high call volume and you're not able to maybe get a call through, try sending a text to 911 and they'll be able to get back to you right away. One of the other key pieces is to make sure that when we talk about those emergencies, it's really critical that the person that needs help is the one that makes that phone call. I've heard countless situations where someone has called, one of the examples I like to use was there was a 13-year-old boy. He was home alone. He heard a crash into the back or in the basement. It was clearly glass breaking. He called his dad. Well, his dad was at work. He calls 911 and then has to relay that information to them. And that really slows down the process. The best option is for the teach your kids, call 911 first, and then they can call you second. Police arrived, and thankfully it was just a tree branch that went through that back glass door there in the basement. But that's just one of, I could tell you many examples of where people are calling 911 when it really should be the person that's in that situation. Being prepared is also really important, and I believe this is where we're going to transition over to Jim Ginder, who is with our Hamilton County Health Department and a professional health educator and has a lot of experience.
Yes, that's why I turned my camera on, Shane. It's because I wanted to introduce Jim next.
Awesome, thank you.
Wait, yeah, so Jim, it sounds like emergency responders could be stretched kind of thin during the eclipse. Do you have any suggestions for local residents so that they can best equip themselves in the event of an emergency?
Sure. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you all for hanging out with us tonight. So some things to think about, I think is really important, as Sarah mentioned, and also Shane mentioned, that with tons of traffic and tons of people, I think it's really important that we as individuals are prepared because it could be a loved one that's been injured, or maybe the person that you're sitting next to at the Eclipse, or having a meal with, or whatever. So these are just some examples I think is really important, is making sure that if you are at a venue, you know where your AEDs are. And I can tell you, we're very fortunate here in Hamilton County with all of our county parks. They do have AEDs as well too. And also I think is really important that if you have not taken a CPR class, try and get one in as well too. And you can also notice I'm a big pusher of Stop the Bleed training, and that's where we teach you how to do jet pressure wound packing and tourniquets. And I think that's really important, is when you purchase a first aid kit, make sure that you have a first aid kit that is also capable of dealing with some type of bleeding emergencies, because traditionally our first aid kits that you get at Walmart or Walgreens, places like that, are very basic first aid kits. And a lot of times these first aid kits don't have the equipment that you need to stop a major bleeding. Or again, make sure you try and take a first aid class or a Stop the Bleed class. And we do offer those classes at the health department as well too. And also something that is really important is we know that because of that, the EMS coverage may be a little bit shorter than usually, to make sure that if you have the ability to get Narcan, to make sure you bring Narcan with you. And if you're not familiar with Narcan, this is a drug that we give people who have overdosed on an opiate. And what it does, it reverses the effect of opiates as well too. And from the Eclipse that Shane talked about previously, we know that there are some overdoses that possibly will happen, and we want to make sure that we can handle those overdoses as well too. At the health department, we actually give out free Narcan as well too, and we actually teach that Narcan class as well. If you're not able to attend the Narcan class, you can go to any drugstore like CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, Target, and you can actually buy Narcan over the counter as well too. Next slide, please. So here's some things to think about when we talk about the Eclipse classes, right? And everybody is freaked out about making sure that you have the right glasses, and you need to make sure that you do have the right glasses. So when you look at your glasses, you need to make sure somewhere on the glasses it says ISO 12312-2. These means these glasses have met the standard, and they're okay to use. And these are the glasses that we want to use during the eclipse as well too. We don't want to use glasses that don't have this a stamp on it, because they're glasses that can actually cause some damage as well too. And it's so important that we not view the eclipse with our naked eye, that we use the ISO glasses. Even let's say that you are taking a picture with a camera, just make sure again that the filter has the ISO rating as well too. And we'll talk more about that in just a second. And also I'm a big fan, especially with our little ones, that we make sure that we practice with them with the glasses before the day of the eclipse, because we know sometimes little ones may have problems getting those glasses on and getting situated the right way. And also I think it's really important that the glasses that our little ones use to practice with are not the glasses that we use on the day of the eclipse. And the reason why is maybe the little ones have some issues with getting the glasses on, so they kind of move them a little bit. Oh, sorry, that's my Alexa, sorry. They may move a little bit as well too. And Keith did say it's okay to look at the sun during the totality. That's correct. But again, we just need to make sure that we've got those glasses on before the total totality it takes place as well too. So again, I'm a big fan. Again, practice, practice, practice with those little ones, and make sure you have a whole new set of glasses for them on the day of the event, because we don't want to use those damaged glasses, because those damaged glasses could actually cause some retinal burns as well too. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about those retina burns. And this occurs when people are looking at the eclipse and they don't have those glasses on, right? And here's some symptoms that we look for and signs. And people think that if they don't use the glasses and they look at the sun, that they're going to have those signs and symptoms immediately, and that's not true. It could be up to 12 to 24 hours before the effects of the burn starts happening. And the way I like to describe it, it's like a really bad sunburn that affects our retinas, that is permanently, those retinas can be permanently damaged as well too. So it's just so important that we make sure that we're using the proper glasses or the filters that have the ISO rating on it as well too. And again, here's some symptoms of those retinal burns. Again, loss of that central vision, distorted vision as well too. Our colors with our vision is kind of whacked out a little bit as well too. Some blind spots as well too. And again, the increased sensitivity to light as well too. And it's really important, if anybody has these signs and symptoms, that we see an eye professional immediately as soon as we can, or get into the closest emergency department as well too, so that person can be evaluated by an eye care specialist as well. Next slide, please. And some other things, again, we kind of talked a little bit about this, about making sure that we take care of our glasses as well, to make sure that we're wearing those glasses right. Also, I think is really important, as Shane said, that we're hoping it's going to be a nice day, making sure that we have our sunscreen on as well too, making sure that we have our hat on as well too, to prevent skin cancer as well too, making sure that if you're using binoculars or other type of devices like a camera, do you have the filters that are recommended for the camera and the binoculars and the telescope as well too. And again, you can, as Keith said, you can take those glasses off during the 3 minutes of totality as well too. And again, we want to make sure that we're not using welding glasses or a welding shield as well too. We want to make sure that if we're using a camera, a cell phone, or binoculars, that they have a filter on them. And usually I haven't seen any filters that you can purchase for your cell phone, but I have seen the filters for the binoculars and the cameras and the telescope as well too. Also making sure that we use those glasses that have the ISO certification on them as well too. And again, that's so important that when you buy those glasses, I was just at Myers a few days ago, and they have a big display when you walk in, and I looked at their glasses and they were ISO certified as well, or ISO credentialed as well. So that's something that you really have to take in account, is if you're buying glasses on Amazon, making sure that have that ISO sticker on them as well. Next slide, please. So where can you purchase glasses? So these are some different examples within the county that you can purchase glasses as well too. All Things Carmel, the Cicero Market, Cool Creek Park as well, Kits and Cadoodle as well, our Harbor Market, Noble Eye, the Noblesville Ace Hardware, and the Noblesville Creation as well too. And again, I just saw some at Meyer here in Noblesville as well too. So again, just make sure when you purchase your glasses that they have the ISO little sticker on it or identifier, so you know that those glasses are okay to use during the eclipse. Next slide, please. And again, here's the other places as well too that you can see as well. Next slide, please. So I also think is really important is we kind of had a discussion about bringing your pets. It's really not recommended to bring your pets with you. Number one, because there's going to be tons of people around, right? And we definitely don't want your pet to get lost. Also, we don't want your pet to be injured in the event as well too. And also, we don't want possibly the risk of the animal bites as well too. Just really important, making sure that if you are staying at home, that you keep your pet inside your yard as well too. Make sure if you choose to bring your pets, make sure they have a leash on them as well too. And also they're microchipped as well too. But really the recommendation is if you can not bring your pet, but if it's a service animal, definitely that's perfectly fine. We just don't want those animals to get lost or unfortunately be injured during the event as well too, because there's so many people and so many vehicles that possibly could be at risk to your pet as well too. Next slide, please. And again, I just think it's really important, as Shane was talking about, is making sure that you're stocking up with food as well too. Also, we know that there's individuals or families that possibly may be having picnics and grilling, which is pretty cool. Just please make sure that food safety is a big component of this as well too. Making sure that you're cooking food to the right temperature, making sure that you're washing your hands before you prep the food as well too. Making sure things that are meant to be cold have to stay cold as well too. And also, we talk about, as Shane mentioned, gasoline as well too, making sure that you fill up with your vehicle as well too. And also making sure that, as Shane mentioned, that it may be a long time before a person gets home, making sure that you have your medicine as well too. So if you're a diabetic and you take insulin, maybe bring your insulin with you as well too. Or if you take an afternoon meds or maybe even night meds, make sure you bring those night meds as well too. And also Jennifer said something about the injuries to the dogs, and that's true 100%. So that's another reason why we were kind of pushing for people to keep their animals inside, just in case the animal does look up at the sun, that they could burn their retinas as well too. Then you would have to make sure you get them into the vet as soon as possible as well. Sarah, I think it's back to you.
Yes, it is. It's me again. So for Eclipse glasses, we are sharing on our website. Again, it's visithamiltoncounty.com/eclipse. You can find, like, as that changes, where you can buy the glasses. The ones that we listed besides Meyer are ones that we purchased through Rainbow Symphony and then have given or sold to locations to sell. So that list will be growing and changing probably pretty rapidly. So keep an eye on that. But thank you, Jim, for all of that information. Shane, can you tell us a little bit about some of the closures we can expect in and around Hamilton County on April 8th? Maybe touch on NDOT a little bit.
Sure. So we have a lot of construction going on, as we start, getting back into gear with the construction season. And we were going to have, Allisonville Road at 146th Street will be closed. It's closed now, and that will be run through the Eclipse. And that is for that major roundabout construction that's going to help improve the traffic and make that intersection much safer. We'll also see 146th Street will be open, but you won't be able to turn onto Allisonville Road. So that's something that's really important. One of the things that NDOT, the Indiana Department of Transportation, announced recently is that they are going to begin resurfacing Connor Street through Noblesville. And unfortunately, during that time period of the eclipse, they are going to close sections of Connor Street in the vicinity of, I think, between 19th and maybe 13th or 12th. But that whole area will be closed. And so Maple Street and Logan Street will see a lot of increased traffic with that going through. We will have signs up for detours, or NDOT will have signs up for detours, but that obviously is a significant impact. There was going to be a closure on eastbound 32 there in Westfield, but fortunately that one has been rescheduled, so that's not going to be a problem for us. But we'll also see other areas, for example, at Oakmont and Whitcomb Ridge. In that area on State Road 38 out by South Harbor, that roundabout construction is set to resume soon. And so all of those major areas where we're seeing construction that was on pause or may have slowed down over the winter time is going to be coming back up into full swing. NDOT is going to treat that day as a holiday, so they will not have any ongoing construction, and they will open up as many lanes as they can, and that's really important for large projects that they have going on, like at I-69 and 465. One of the other things that our county offices are going to close at noon on Monday. That way we can make sure that our employees are getting to where they need to be so they're not stuck out in the traffic. And that's something that we also recommend that other businesses consider. And it's really important that, if you have childcare that day, that if you can pick them up early, especially before the path of totality or before totality, that's going to be really important, because after totality is when we expect the increase in the traffic. The courts will be closed. You can go to my case and you can look at that information. The courts are providing information or sending information out to anyone that may have a court date scheduled for that day. The 4-H Fairgrounds is undergoing some construction and renovation, and they've got a lot of exciting projects that are going on out there. But that whole area will be closed to the public due to the amount of construction. So if you thought that maybe that would be a good place to view the eclipse, you'll need to find another location. And the parks will be open. And I think with that, we will turn it back. Sarah, I'll turn it back over to you.
Yes, it's me. It's always me. Okay, so.
And I'm sorry, I thought I had my camera on, but I didn't.
Oh, that's okay. So White River Campground will sadly be closed. Another thing that I have learned about eclipse chasers and eclipse travelers is they do love to camp. So while White River Campground is not closed or is not open, it's closed for a major renovation to its water and sewer systems. There are still other options for camping for the eclipse. I keep plugging my website, but Hamilton County Tourism has compiled a list of other places providing overnight camping, RV, and otherwise. And we're going to keep adding to that list as we hear about more places. So if we want to move on, Emily, we will bring you in now. Emily, all Hamilton County parks will be open for the eclipse, but there will be no overnight parking or camping allowed. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep. And the same goes for city parks as well. So there is some RV camping in Hamilton County. They have the places listed where you can do RV parking. If you want to go to the next slide. So yep, no overnight camping. And then now's a good time to really decide where you would like to watch the eclipse. To ensure you're not trespassing on private property, please just respect the rights of all property owners by not trespassing on someone else's yard. Hamilton County Parks is hosting 2 events. So we're really excited to be hosting 2 total solar eclipse events at 2 of our most popular parks, Cool Creek Park and Strawtown Kotewi Park. Both events will include entertaining and educational eclipse activities. We have been planning for over a year to make this a unique and special experience for our community. We're encouraging visitors to come together to share in this once-in-a-lifetime historical event. So Moon Market is the first one. It will be held at Strawtown Kotewi Park from noon to 5. It will feature an artisan market where vendors will be selling a variety of handmade crafts and wares, including some celestial themed items. In addition, there will be fascinating eclipse programming by eclipse expert and educator Keith Turner. So we didn't get to hear from him today, but you could hear from him there. And there will be eclipse related crafts, activities, and the Duke Energy Nature Education trailer will also be there. Entertainment will be provided by guitarist Robin Harrison, and food and drink will be provided by That Vegan Joint, JT's Kettle Corn, and Kona Ice. And then at both of our events, registered attendees will have access to reserved parking and the option to tailgate. So on to the next event will be at Cool Creek. So Park Side of the Moon. Park Side of the Moon will be at Cool Creek. It will go from 10 to 5. This event will be really similar to our popular summer concerts, so complete with a musical performance from Echoes of Pompeii, a tribute to Pink Floyd. Popular broadcast personality Paul Poteet will host, and there will be presentations from noted Eclipse specialist Dr. Doug Baylog and his colleague Jeff Atterbury. Attendees will also be invited to enjoy other activities like lunar landscape, climbing wall, which is a rock wall, and silly solar spheres, which is those like plastic balls that you can get inside to enjoy 360 degrees of rolling fun. And food and drink vendors will include Mountain Flower Kettle Corn, Mashcraft Brewery, Westfield Rotary, and Maybell's Best. And like I said before, there will be free parking and the option to tailgate at Cool Creek as well. Also, registered attendees at both events will receive Eclipse viewing glasses. So those safe glasses that we talked about, both events will have those, and you'll receive those the day of the event when you arrive. Okay. So finally, Hamilton County Parks and Recreation is also offering merchandise to commemorate this special event. We have t-shirts, sweatshirts, stickers, koozies, ornaments. Everything is available to purchase online at the United State of Indiana website. It's just their website, /collections, /HCPR. And then Cool Creek Nature Center is also selling the yellow t-shirt that you see here. We have the stickers, and then Cool Creek Park is also one of the places that you can buy Eclipse viewing glasses. And that is all I have. Yep, and that's the website that you can go to purchase any of those items.
So fun. I love it so much. Did you say that there's a vegan place at Strawtown Coteau?
Yep.
All right.
So that vegan joint is going to be the food vendor at Moon Market.
Awesome. My fiance is a vegan, so maybe we'll have to come there. But
There.
I did have one question before we wrap up. So the prices that you listed, that's per person, right? Because I know that some of our viewing locations are doing it by carload. Everyone's different, but I just wanted to make sure
Correct.
we clarified that. Okay. Cool.
Yes, per person. And then you have to go online to register. I can put the link in the chat. You do have to pre-register. And I can put the link in the chat, or if you go to on the next slide, I think we have the county website that has all of the information. You can go there too, and it takes you to our page, but I'll put it in the chat as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. It would be nice to put it in there. It's easier access. So that wraps up our part of the presentation. If you have questions, please submit them in the chat box. I do see a couple already that I'll go over or I'll direct. But again, this slide here just is direct links to our direct links to some great resources from us. We want you to visit and learn more and share the news. I personally am super excited for this event. I feel like it's going to be so much fun it's just going to be so cool and so unique. I do see that someone had a question about how many people I gave as the estimate for being in attendance. I say the 600,000 number just because I haven't heard otherwise. People keep saying we're going to hear more, but I just feel like it's better to kind of go with the data that we have proven to be correct. But
Sarah, just a quick point on that though. That's 600,000 for the state, correct?
For the path of totality, yeah.
Okay.
But we haven't, besides seeing hotel rooms, which are lining up, like we have sold more hotel rooms than any other community in Indiana. And we're not even, the center point. So just, I think with having such easy access to the interstate and so many things to do, we will continue to be leaders and have, people coming here. But yeah, that's the data that I feel most comfortable using just because of all the research they have behind.